You see, the darkness in society, it only came because we let the fathers, the monsters, we let them rule. But now, all we have to do is make a patchy
Lauren. If I were making a visual accompaniment for this audio, which, who knows, I may do, I'd show that blindfolded Justice Lady holding scales statue thingy, that thing, when I said law just then, and then I'd show a picture of a wren, as in the bird, law wren. Or maybe a blindfolded bird holding those law scale things. Hey, Lauren, also known as at El Macharo, that's at LMACHARO in the sphere of Twitter. That should be your logo. Blindfolded bird holding scales. Law wren. A wren of the law. Hey. Bird law. Remember that? It's from It's Always Sunny. Good show. Anyway, go give Lauren a follow on Twitter. Again, that's at El Macharo on Twitter. She's Zeitgang, which means she's a big fan of the Daily Zeitgeist, a great, light, progressive daily news podcast that I'm pretty sure most of my listeners are familiar with, hosted by Jack O'Brien, former Cracked editor-in-chief and really awesome, effortlessly cool dude named Miles Gray, with an ever-rotating cast of fun comedians. Great place to find new comedians, and just to get I think it's 5 days a week, little news breakdown, and they do these shorter, trending shows in the evening. Great show. And Lauren also happens to be a photographer. She has a website, Lauren Macaroni. I'm sorry if that must be like an Italian name, and I don't think it's macaroni. That's Lauren MACHARONI.com. That website has a bunch of awesome photographs on it, and she's down with the revolution, I think. So go support her. Give her stuff a gander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, or the wren. The law wren, which maybe you, Lauren, can get someone to draw for you, or better yet, get a tiny blindfold and some tiny scales, and find a wren you can dress up like Lady Justice. Maybe a wren that has arms and hands with opposable thumbs. Stage the photo, take the photo, and make that your logo for your photography endeavors. Boom. You're welcome. Wouldn't that be adorable? So yeah, these ideas are free. These brain thoughts, this podcast is 100% free, and you're free to use my business suggestions. Today's episode of this podcast is unbelievably exciting. It's Chris Freeman of the immortal, the inevitable Lookout Records gay pop rock punk band. We'll call them that queer core, I think is a word that's been used to describe them. Punk pop rock band Pansy Division. What a treat. What a world we live in which a musical and countercultural hero of mine will lower himself to come on this little itty-bitty podcast, Breadsheet. That's right. You're listening to an all-new Breadsheet with the all-new me, Hoss Bossman. Breadsheet. That there's a new Anchor ad. I thought it was time to update that, and I really like the new ad. I like it better than the first one. It's shorter, and I think it's betterer. And cuts a little bit more to the chase. Eventually, I'll update it again and get it down to actually exactly 30 seconds. I think I only got it down to like 50 this time around, but it's pretty cute. I like those little bear cub noises. Those are, for some reason, those bear cub sounds are built into the Apple Loops library. Not sure why that is a thing, but okay, this is a big interview, and it's truly really, really awesome and great. Really great interview. I'm so grateful to Mr. Freeman for joining me. So I'm going to make this intro short. I'm cutting the fluff, just the meat. Shit. I just swung my hand around and knocked over one of my studio lights here, but one of these studio lights that my girlfriend got me for Crimbus, but it landed on a soft pile of pillows. So everything's fine. I'm not even going to bother picking that up just yet. But yeah, just the meat and potatoes for today's bread sheet. And I also kind of need to do that because I'm trying to get this episode ready to post earlier than usual because my butterbean and I are moving to another place. I won't say exactly where because I don't want to dox myself, or especially don't want to dox my butterbean. Still in Georgia, but a few hours away from where we are now. A sort of not super well-off city by all appearances, but I'm excited to move down to that city where my girlfriend, my partner, will be practicing law for the very first time professionally. Actually, she's already started because they're holding court remotely, virtually still down there. And I'm so proud of her for making it all the way through law school, studying for and passing the Georgia bar exam. I was there the whole time witnessing how incredibly difficult and exhausting her journey was. And let me tell you, people, I could never accomplish something like that. She's amazing. And to top it all off, she's going straight into using her degree for public service as a juvenile public defender. As in she's going to be a public defender for juvenile defendants. Not that she's going to be a juvenile for some reason. That would be impossible. But in addition to practicing one of the more difficult and thankless types of law one can practice, she's also, not going to be getting rich off her lawyering anytime soon, which, who needs money when you got love in your life and you feel like you're doing something good for the world? But the fact that this is like her dream and the type of law she wanted to go into, that is illustrative. I think illustrative is a better way to pronounce that, but that illustrates why I love and respect her so much. And she's just a much better person than anyone dating me has any business being. But she has really stuck around through much more of my bullshit than I've deserved. Okay, this is getting a little too personal. The short and stanky of all this is that we're moving into a new apartment where we will have an extra room to use as an office, recording, filming, and streaming space. So be on the lookout for a huge creative tsunami from your boy Haas that having a new space will surely catalyze. Going to start doing daily streams on Twitch in which I will play music, maybe some video games occasionally, have fun watch parties, do more GarageBand and Logic tutorials, comment on PragerU videos, it's just streamy stuff that the lefties on streaming sites do sometimes. Gonna do all that regularly once we get settled in. So go ahead and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Haas_Bossman, or go to www.haas.fun, as you always can. That's www, not Haas.fun. See all my links and such, and join me on this magnificent journey. Also, buy a copy of Sounds of Bread Sheet while you're on the interwebs. Go to haasbossman.bandcamp.com and get the Sounds of Bread Sheet, where you can hear all the lovely music from this beautiful podcast. Bread Sheet. Okay, short intro. Real quick, a pinch of Haas news. I'm going to see if I can fish out that theme and maybe I can do a little redux of it and play it right here. This will be the last piece of music I play before I play Chris Freeman's original theme I made for him. Pretty excited about this one, as I am about all my original themes I make for my original guests. But real quick, a pinch of Haas news. Hit the theme.
It's Haas news. It's news from Haas about Haas. You can listen to. It's a Haas news.
Okay, pinch of Haas news here. I made a 40-second ad for my YouTube channel, and the Mind Freaks over at The Surfs were kind enough to feature it on their channel. Actually, here's the audio of that 40-second ad.
Howdy, my fake internet name is Haas Bossman, and today I want to tell you about my YouTube channel. I try and draw upon my background as an educator, entertainment writer, and musician to create unique, educational, memorable, and most of all, enjoyable content for my audience, be they hardened leftists, left-curious libs, or right-wing ding-dongs who just fell asleep on their keyboards. I talk politics, pop culture, countercultural, academic, and artsy stuff, always with an eye toward exploring and illuminating leftist, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, pro-worker, and/or pro-social justice ideas. So please, check out the Haas Bossman YouTube channel. Also, visit www.haas.fun to see all my stuff and help me fix society.
And since they played that ad on just one of their videos, I've gained over 100 new subscribers. So thank you so much to the Surfs for giving me that little boost. Very cool. Everything is growing. All the podcast and YouTube channel, people seem to be digging what I'm trying to do here. So I'm just really excited about all that. As I record this, I have interviews with Ben Burgess. Actually going to be talking to him tomorrow of the Give Them an Argument, both the podcast and the book he wrote of that fame. And also, used to be on the Michael Brooks show a lot. And, you see him popping up in all kinds of left spaces. He's a professor of logic. And so he's got that real smart logic brain. And he's actually was featured on the, I don't know, it's like the third and fourth episodes of Breadsheet, I think. I think it was the second interview I did for this podcast. And look how far we've come. We're already, it looks like episode 2021 is going to be the return of Ben Burgess. So that's going to be really great. I got a couple specific things to talk to him about, and he'll be my first guest that I'm not going to be doing kind of a feature thing with, because all the guests I've had up to this point, it's been their first time on the show. So I asked them about, their lives, as I do with Chris Freeman on this episode, and talking about just, their political journey and that sort of thing. Then when I have people back, and, I touch on this with depending on how long we go in the first appearances too, but when I have Ben Burgess back, we're going to talk about his nationalized Walmart video, and we're going to do some dishing, some hot some gossiping on talking about the infighting on the left. I know he's friends with a lot of those people that are involved in this infighting, so I'm not going to make him get too specific with that. But also got Robbie Martin. He's going to be, actually he just confirmed with me today, he's going to be joining me next, not this coming week, but the next. We're going to record that interview because, again, I'm going to be moving, so I've got to kind of put everything on hold. But that's why I'm getting this stuff ready, because I'm going to spend the next week just packing stuff and packing up the moving van and all that stuff. I'm basically in charge of all that because my butterbean is, working full-time, has her first lawyering job, so trying to take as much of the stress off of her as possible and handle all the moving stuff. And she's currently the breadwinner, so, I feel like I don't have a full-time job, so I should be making myself useful, right? Gonna try to get the new Money in Politics video, which has been 90% done, and just kind of sitting on the shelf for a while. I've had a couple of things come up that, MLK Day, and then there was the runoff election down here in Georgia that I thought were more pressing topics, and I had ideas to write, video scripts about those and do some debunking and that kind of thing. So I, set the Money in Politics thing aside because it's kind of an evergreen topic. I go pretty broad on it, basically just kind of got down all the stuff I know, a basic overview of that topic, and I'll get more in depth with future videos on it because definitely going to keep revisiting that. And PragerU has a few videos about money in politics where they try to defend it and talk about it like it's a good thing. So that's obviously some bullshit, and PragerU is kind of an easy target. But anyway, Robbie Martin of Media Roots radio fame. He's the brother of Abby Martin, who I think is, if you listen to Joe Rogan, she's been on that podcast a few times. If you are familiar with, she's the Empire Files, and Robbie Martin is her co-host on, and actually a lot of times it'll be just him on Media Roots radio, but he's awesome. Talks a lot about Freemasons and conspiracy stuff, and that's real fun. But yeah, so that's scheduled, and so that's going to be in less than a month from now, maybe 3-4 weeks. That Robbie Martin episode of Red Sheet is going to be coming out, and I'm going to talk to him about, some of his personal political journey, like, those feature type things, but also going to get talking about some cool, esoteric, weird, fun shit. So look out for that. So yeah, get stoked for those. That Money in Politics video, that's coming soon, finally. So go on over to bit.ly/HossTube or www.hoss.fun and binge all my videos. Hopefully that dition will ultimately serve to unite the left so we can take over the world. I'm still only able to get episodes out every 2 weeks at the moment of Breadsheet, but after the move, I'm going to try to get back to a once-a-week release schedule, and, the more I can get the word out about the podcast and the YouTube videos and stuff, the more time I can devote to them, hopefully. I've been scoring my friend Tyler's short film, and we're wrapping that up. That is turning out really well. So, hey, if anybody has anything that you want me to, I did a crash course, and my friend Tyler was pretty patient with me as I pretty much just figured it out how to compose for film as I went along, and did the whole score for this 16-minute short film that he made, and it, I think, has turned out really, really good. So if you know anybody, or if you would like some original music composed for you, I promise it's not all silly, goofy sounding shit like the stuff that I do on this show. I can also make like actual music. Not that silly, goofy music isn't actual music, but you know what I mean. I can make music that's like supposed to be taken seriously. It's supposed to be. Hopefully that is the end result. Okay, focus, Hoss. Hoss, focus. Short intro. People want to hear this LGBTQ plus and rock and roll icon talk about breaking down the barriers in the music industry, really putting the pride back into gay pride, touring with other legends like Green Day, and just being awesome dudes. I don't think I have much caveating to do for this interview. Let's see. I was a little starstruck, and as a, cis-het white waspy-man, my privilege guilt probably spilled over into the conversation a bit, which, I know that can get a little annoying to people. But it can be a little awkward also trying to talk about issues like the ones we talk about in this chat, especially with, me not being a part of the sort of marginalized group I was trying to kind of speak about issues, but I think it was a very productive and cool and interesting conversation. Went some really interesting places and kind of like brought a lot full circle. So that's coming up in just a moment. He was incredibly sweet and open, just a wonderful person to chat with, a light in the darkness that is this sick ass world. Okay, with no further ado, or just the little bit of ado that's coming up right here, here is my interview with the great Chris Freeman of Pansy Division. Just after you hear the theme I made for him, which is going to play right after I say, check out Pansy Division's music on all the streaming services. It's all great, but there's a compilation of some of the special gems called The Essential Pansy Division that is truly wonderful. Check out the documentary about them that we mentioned, which Chris Freeman actually produced, and I don't know, he put it up on the YouTube, so it is free on YouTube. It's called Pansy Division, Life in a Gay Rock Band. Check out some of their music videos and more recent live performances, which are also on YouTube. Follow them on Twitter at Pansy Division, Instagram at Pansy Division Official. Their Facebook group is called the Official Pansy Division Group. All that stuff and more can be found at pansydivision.com, and I guess once, COVID starts lightening up, they'll be going on tour again, so that's where you can find tour dates and stuff as well. And we're going to ride out of this episode with one of my favorite newer Pansy Division songs, the title track from their 2009 album, That's So Gay, which is called That's So Gay, which I believe Mr. Freeman is featured doing the lead vocals on it. I'm not sure if that means it's one that he wrote, but it's a banger, so stick around for that. And also follow me, Hoss Bossman, on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Hoss_Bossman. Please consider chucking me a monthly $1 or $3 or $5 or $20 at patreon.com/Hoss_Bossman. Purchase my real music at thekmax.bandcamp.com, or my fun, crazy breadsheet music at hossbossman.bandcamp.com, no underscore in that. Subscribe to the Hoss Bossman YouTube channel, share, rate, and review this podcast and all my stuff. Tell your friends, etc., etc. All that stuff is a huge help. I know it get annoying me saying it all the time, but, I need that huge help because I'm very poor and unemployed if you don't count this as a job, which I don't at the moment because it currently only brings in like $30 or $40 a month. But, that ain't nothing, and I appreciate every penny of that money that y'all are either through Patreon or by sharing the videos and stuff. But yeah, you can help me out at little to no cost to yourself just by sharing, rating, reviewing, all that stuff. Okay, find all my stuff at www.host.fun. And now, with no further ado, please welcome Mr. Chris Freeman of Pansy Division after his original song I made for him.
Okay. I came up with a title. Chris Freeman's theme song is called Mail Order Ministry, but mail is M-L-E, get it? I think I'm allowed to make that joke. It's Chris's joke, really. Man, I can almost hear the robot voice in my head as I type this last-minute spreadsheet addendum. It's 12:16 a.m. and I am smack dab in the middle of what's turning out to be a very complicated move to another mysterious city. I'm exhausted and delirious, but I'll be gosh darned if I'm gonna leave my sheetheads hanging any longer. Okay, back to past us.
This one is a banger, and I'm pretty happy with it. Anyway, Mr. Chris Freeman of Pansy Division, the greatest band of all time. Now,
it's worth imagining something.
What world do you want to live in?
What is there that I want to see?
It makes a huge difference.
It's worth imagining something.
Because of people who keep thinking about, I can make it better and imagining it.
To any gay people who might be listening,
it's worth it.
It's mail order ministry. It's mail order ministry.
I want to imagine a world where gay rock music exists. What would it sound like to me?
Let's play with their head.
Swim against that with all you have.
Swim like mad.
Do it.
Swim like mad.
Against that current. Get away.
Get away from whatever it is that's pushing against you.
It's mail order ministry. It's mail order ministry.
Do it.
And then work against that.
That was not thought of before until somebody like us thought, let's think about it. What would it be like? What do you want?
It's mail order ministry.
To any gay people who might be listening,
you're everywhere now.
Don't be afraid.
So what? You're going to survive it.
You're going to survive battling your own mind.
Because of people who keep thinking about, I can make it better and imagine.
It's worth imagining
We're
something.
everywhere now.
Don't be afraid.
So what? You're going to survive it.
You're going to survive battling your own mind.
It's mail order ministry.
Have you been doing stuff via Zoom since the pandemic hit?
Almost daily, honestly. I work for a school, so that's how I communicate with students. So,
cool. If you don't want to go into too much detail, I understand, but what do you do exactly?
So I'm director of financial aid.
Oh.
So I secure the loans and grants for students to go to school. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I remember I rewatched that documentary that you produced. I don't know how long ago it was now, but
07.
07, yeah. And I rewatched that recently and remember saying that you guys had kind of transitioned to doing the band kind of part-time. And I was kind of curious about what new lives y'all had started. So how about the rest of the guys in the band? What type of stuff are they doing?
So John is in San Francisco. He's the only one left in San Francisco. Unfortunately, it's just too expensive to live there anymore.
Yeah.
And he in 2009, after he put out his book, and we put out the DVD of the documentary, he did a book tour. Then he went back to school for a year and became a paralegal. So now he works for law firms doing paralegal work. So he's done very well.
Oh, cool. That's actually my girlfriend just finished law school this past year. Very weird time to finish law school, and is just now starting her first real life lawyering job.
There you go.
Exciting. Yeah, public defender. Yeah. So yeah, that should be an interesting. And I'm also, some of the time when I'm not doing like entertainment writing and stuff, I've done like teaching high school English and stuff. So, kind of similar lines of work there.
Yeah. And our drummer went back to school and he's become a licensed therapist. And and Joel, our guitar player, his daughter is, I think, 5 this year.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So yeah. And his wife has been on HGTV. She's a real estate person in Boston. So she's got a little personality going there. It's awesome.
Sorry, I'm kind of fiddling around here. I'm trying to get the more updated version of my notes here on my iPad, and it's being annoying. So, I've kind of been trying to post to my social media more stuff to my listeners, stuff about Pansy Division and, what y'all are about and, trying to link to that documentary. I don't know about if that, I watched it on YouTube. Is there right up top, is there a place some people can go to like, send some traffic y'all's way? Because I don't know if that like whoever posted that to YouTube, if that's y'all or just some random person. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, we have not really looked at monetizing from YouTube. There's a point where we just figure if it's online, it's going to be free. People are really not going to, so what's the point? And I don't like subjecting people to commercials, even if they're people I support. So I kind of feel like, we have our day jobs that make the money. Let's keep our art as clean as we want it to be. It doesn't have to make us money. So that's the thing is, I think that was around 2000, the year 2000, Metallica sued Napster. And we followed this because we knew some of the guys in Metallica, and it was kind of a douchey move in a way, but it really sent signals throughout everywhere. Like, okay, this is, and we had serious thoughts about it. Like, all right, I think we're entering a new realm here where we cannot count on sales of merchandise like CDs or cassettes or vinyl. Well, now vinyl's back, but you can't really count on that as an income stream anymore. For a while, it was a big source of income. And now we realize as soon as it's online, nobody's going to want to pay for it. And why should they at this point? So we thought, all right, well, we'll just make sure that we can sustain ourselves by just playing shows. And but without burning ourselves out. So that's why we all got day jobs.
Sure.
Because you just can't, you burn out markets. People don't want to see you. You go someplace twice a year and people are like, all right, I'm done seeing you, go away for a while. So, we just try to keep things going at a pace that seems appropriate. But now this whole pandemic thing is really shot a lot of people's dreams and hopes down, because we turned 30 this year. In fact, this month, January of 1991, John released the Raging Woody EP, as he called it, which was just him and a guitar playing on a 4-track cassette at home. And that was really the start of Pansy Division, those 4 songs. And so we thought, well, we've had all these things that we're going to do for our 30th anniversary. And, we're like 20 shows or so away from hitting 1,000. And I remember years ago when the Ramones hit 1,000 shows, and it was a big deal. And I was like, what does it take for a band to get to 1,000 shows? Well, now I know it's, you just keep going. But we're this close, and we were like, all right, what if we had our 1,000th show in San Francisco for our 30th anniversary? And it's not happening. So, actually, it's like, oh.
And I know, my favorite band of all time is Bad Religion, and I think last year marked their 40th year, and so they had kind of a similar I don't know about their show count, but they had kind of a similar thing where they were like all stoked about like, oh, this is our 40-year anniversary. And then they've released some pretty cool like YouTube, they did this decades thing where they like did an hour-long set with no crowd, just like live performance of like 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. So that's been pretty nice. So wow. I've seen some bands get creative with stuff like that, where it's like, well, we can't play shows, so maybe we can like try doing some live stuff. Has Pansy Division like done anything like that, or are you thinking about doing anything like that?
Well, Joel is in Boston, right? Luis is in New York. I'm in LA, and John's in San Francisco. So getting us together is not going to happen. Sure. Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I have other bands, projects and stuff, and we just haven't been able to get together at all. So we're not, yeah. The most we could do is just release things online. That's it. You have to make do, I guess, whatever you can make do with. And we'll just come back whenever things are ready, honestly. If some of those clubs are even there. I mean, one of my other bands is Gacy DC. And we had a tour booked in March to go up the coast, up to Seattle and over to Salt Lake City. And some of those clubs are not open any longer. So that's another downside, is these clubs they can't sustain themselves. So,
yeah, I really wish that this, I mean, obviously the pandemic was handled horribly in a lot of countries and, 1,000 times worse in this country. And it seems like, some people, I know in Germany, I don't know all the details of it, but in some other like countries in Europe, their economy hasn't completely collapsed. Like it looks like ours is kind of in the process of doing right now because the government like gave support to those small businesses and their employees so that, people have like a lifeline, but obviously that wasn't really in the cards with the administration that we.
Well, the key word there is socialism.
Yes, of course.
The nasty word to 74 million of Americans.
Yeah, and that's that actually on this podcast, I've spent a lot of time talking to people about more kind of like labor organizing and like leftist politics. In that regard, and economics and stuff like that, a little bit of the social stuff, but I was kind of having you on as sort of one of the first in sort of I'm trying to kind of branch out and talk about sort of more social issue stuff and like the intersection between art and politics, which obviously you are like a perfect person to speak to that. Not to put any pressure on you or anything.
No.
But so I guess I could start by just like the way that I was introduced to Pansy Division was I graduated high school in 2006, and I'm a musician, so I kind of got to see right as it was like, oh yeah, we're selling merch, and then that all was going downhill like you were saying earlier, and kind of had to figure things out. I got a certificate in music business from the University of Georgia in like 2011 when I was in college, and that was like the biggest issue that we were talking about was how just the industry was shifting so hard then, and it's still like hasn't been figured out. But but the way that we discovered you guys was I think we were watching like Behind the Music of Green Day, and this was probably been like 2002 or something like that, and it was like the big, basically it was like showing Billy Joe Armstrong. He had a Pansy Division sticker on his guitar, and my buddy Max and I, who is like, my lifelong best friend, musician partner, Billy Joe Armstrong saying that like he brought you guys on tour specifically sort of as a like political statement in and of itself. And I know you guys touch on that in the documentary and everything, but could you maybe like speak a little bit about that whole like setup?
Well, Gilman itself was a socialist group. I mean, it's basically a cooperative of people who all pull together to get what needs to get done. They do what needs to get done. And so, you volunteer and you work for Gilman, and it's just this collective. It's a feeling of, we don't care what your color is. We don't care what sex you are. Nothing matters. You're a person. If you want to come here and contribute to this cooperative that we have here, please come. No violence, no drinking, no drugs. Keep it all over there. Let's just make this a clean place for people to play and express and do whatever they want. And that. They wanted to bring that with them. They wanted to bring that culture that they grew up in because they felt that was extremely important. And they wanted to say, look, this is the cup that the Petri dish we came in, and it's part and parcel of who we are. Let's take this around. And I think because of what we were doing, I think we were one of the points for them in the tent of, like holding up the tent idea. They'd seen our shows, which were a lot more elaborate, but we couldn't bring all the dancers on tour with us. That was a problem. But I think that was their idea. And then I think the idea became even more titillating to them when they realized, oh, the same thing is happening to us that happened to Nirvana, where people who are listening to this music are some of the people who are listening to us are not the kind of people we would be associating with normally. So let's see if we put Pansy Division up there, let's see if we can poke at them a little bit and see what they think. And more often than not, they were also disappointed with the reaction we were getting. They were disappointed that the people who were coming to see them would do that to us when they felt like, we're bringing part of our home with us and you're booing it. This is part of who we are. And they did, I watched them get really disappointed. Well, the whole year was, nuts for them. That whole 94, the tour, when you come from that sort of atmosphere, and then being on tour when you're, before 20, you're on tour and you're, drinking beer and smoking pot and you're just playing punk rock and then now you're selling 14 million albums. Now you've got to have, lawyers doing everything and who's your friend now and accountants and who's robbing me, who's taking money I don't know about, all of a sudden, all these things, they really got clobbered. So I think they were disappointed mostly, though, and they said so to a number of the crowds that booed us. They would come out and spend a little moment during the set going, yeah, fuck you. You guys don't know anything. Pansy Division's the future of rock and roll. And, I thought, at the time, I was just like so proud of them because when we signed to Lookout, they had just released Kerplunk, and it was obvious, that band, that's a band that's going places. That's a solid record. And then to see them get everything that they deserved in a way was really great. But to see them also do it with, okay, we have to keep our sense of morality or sense of center, where did we come from? Let's keep that going. And they did it, It's tough these days for them, though. They've got to keep huge walls around them. I haven't seen them for a long time. It's been probably since 2000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they were opening. I remember they were opening for Blink 182. And it was, I think it was Jimmy Eat World, them, and then Blink 182 were the headliners. And I remember I went backstage and Billy was like, oh, this is terrible. They sing with auto-tuners live. And we've got to do something. This is horrible. I want to get back on track. And they did, within a year or so, they came up with American Idiot. So,
which, that really kind of brought them back to the center of culture and so many different ways. That's I've talked to my girlfriend's dad. I brought up with, he's grew up in the 70s, mostly listens to classic rock. And, I've told him about, I'm really into punk rock from the 80s and 90s. And he basically, the only band he knows of in that genre is Green Day. And he's like, oh, but I love them. American Idiot was such a great, I think for a lot of liberals that really struck the right chord, especially at that moment in, that political moment there. And so I don't know, this idea of it being a statement in and of itself. I never really thought about that aspect of it, about how it's it's not just being more accepting of the fact that all of this music doesn't have to be songs about getting hand jobs from your girlfriend or whatever. This can be this, all types of experience needs to be represented here. I'm also a big Propaganda fan, and I know that was a huge. I've seen interviews with Chris Hanna where he talks about how we were swept up into this 90s punk scene that we really didn't know anything about, this Southern California culture. We didn't realize how sexist and homophobic and kind of bro-ish and everything it was, which is a big reason apparently why their second album says it says animal friendly, pro-feminist, anti-homophobic or something like that on it. And it was just it's kind of like what you were talking about, just like a fuck you to that part. Like, we don't want you in our scene. And so did I guess, like, after, you know, that huge first tour with Green Day, what were there some like surprising things about like the types of people you were seeing coming out to your shows once you had that like huge level of exposure?
For a hot minute, you know, there were a lot more girls than we expected, and that was very welcome. We were very happy about that, and we were also happy at the same time that, you know, right on the heels of everything we were doing was Riot Girl. And that to me was like, oh, thank God, you know, I'm so sick of always hearing men. I want more women. You know, I loved, for me, when I graduated high school, it was 1979. And, you know, to buy that first Pretenders album and hear her say fuck off in the first song, I was like, oh my God, you know, it's so great. And I wanted more of that, and there just wasn't. It was always marginalized. And I'm from Seattle originally, so and my two sisters went to the same schools as Ann and Nancy Wilson. So the heart was sort of like injected into my upbringing, you know. So I always looked up to Heart. It was like, well, they're just, you know, why aren't there more women? Why, you know, okay, Pat Benatar, all right, there's, you know, a few, but they're really super marginalized and they're not allowed to go beyond certain things. So, you know, Riot Girl was just awesome. I loved all of that stuff. So, I mean, we even played a show in, I think it was Santa Cruz with Heavens to Betsy and Excuse 17. And the two leaders of both of those bands got together right after that tour and put together Sleater Kinney. So we were like, this is what we're talking about. This is, you know, this is, we wanted more of that, more of everything. Let's see more of everything, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people, you know, I've always been really into like explicitly political music, whether, you know, folk or even like some country music and stuff, but mostly the punk rock of the 80s and 90s. And, you know, a lot of people will say something like American Idiot is like, that it's preachy, things that are explicitly political, you know, I don't like that. Even if like I agree with the politics, like I don't need that in my, you know, my art that I listen to, which is, you know, fine, different strokes. But I you know, I think some people some artists are in a unique position, like those Riot Girl and like you guys were, to like just being yourselves was a political statement in and of itself.
That's correct. That is something that I think John Giannoli knew well before I did. I think it dawned on me after a while, oh, this is political, what we're doing. And he was like, I thought you knew that. What, you're just getting this? And it did dawn on me that the act we were doing was in defiance. You know, It was a social experiment, and it still is. You know, I think as long as there are gay people being thrown off of buildings, it's going to be my drive artistically to shove it in their face.
Sure.
Because, you know, they're shoving it in mine. I'm going to shove it right back, you know. Absolutely. If they're watching anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, you know, growing up in the time that I did and like, you know, becoming politically aware, like in the early 2000s, it is, and it's got to be, I mean, so much more so, especially being a gay man, like, and being, you know, part of the artistic scene, and that, like, it's been just so remarkable to see how much attitudes have shifted. Like when I was in high school, it was like a radical leftist thing to say gay people should be allowed to get married, you know, and like I was like a weirdo for thinking that, you know, in my small Northeast Georgia, like mountain town, especially, my friends and I were like, we were like the weird leftist liberal people, because like, you know, we didn't think that like different lifestyles were weird, and we wanted to know more about those different lifestyles. And, it was like artists like coming out of that Southern California culture, a lot of that was like really introduced us to just all these like different kind of modes of being. And I mean, what's it been like to see that transformation from, the 80s into the and up to today of like, there's been some waxing and waning of especially for the past few years. But, just seeing how like different attitudes have gotten, like it's not a statement necessarily as much just to be openly gay as it was. So can you speak a little bit to what that has been like?
Sure. It's hard not to go back and look at things in a timeline and not realize that what we did was a huge blip on that. It's to a certain extent, we don't feel like going, oh, look at us. Look what, but in the end, isn't that what we were trying to do? And we accomplished what we set out to do. At one point, I remember John and I saying, wouldn't it be nice if one day our band was treated like, remember back in the 90s when you had to have gay bands and straight versus straight bands, and oh my God, listen to this hit, like a K-Tel Records of all that, we thought that'd be funny to just be to the point where it was no longer a question. It was no longer, oh, they're a gay band. They're just a band. Sort of make ourselves unnecessary. And we thought, yeah, if that gets to that point, that'd be a good time to stop, when we're no longer necessary. So, and we thought at the beginning, we didn't do it for anybody but us. I mean, we really thought more than the Bay Area. We didn't know who was going to really get it. And we were very surprised at the time. But then another thing happened. So, I mean, we did what we did, and the sheer absolute luck and love of Green Day, I'll bring them back again. The sheer amazing partnership that was for a year really put all of this into motion. And then within very limited amount of time, I mean, on that tour, we played with Melissa Etheridge and Indigo Girls on the last show with Green Day. So they were like, I remember Melissa Etheridge coming up to me after our set and going, you got balls, you getting up there and singing those songs to those kids. Oh my God. And I was like, girl, it's your turn. It's your turn. I dare you to come out of the closet. And same thing with Amy over there. Come on out, girls, come on out now. It's your turn. Within 18 months of that tour, all those people, Michael Stipe, Katie Lang, later Rob Halford, I met him in 97, but eventually after we talked to him, he came out. We were like, look, we just broke down the doors. We've been singing Sucking Cock to 8-year-olds in stadiums. I mean, I think the doors have been opened. You can step in now and probably not have anything bad happen to you. And nothing happened to any of their careers, none of them. Mm-hmm. None of them. So for me, that's like, because I remember right when I joined Pansy, I got the cassette from John in October of 91. And then in November of 91, I came back from a trip where I'd been listening to the cassette, and I came back to John and I said, yes, I'll join the band. And within days, Freddie Mercury died. Mm. And we thought, now we've got a reason to do this, because that can't happen again. Somebody who's gay cannot take it to their grave like that. The only thing he said was in the 24 hours of his death is he said, I have AIDS. That's it. And we thought that just is never going to happen again. No, not as long as we can push this. So, yeah. But then it became Ellen, the Ellen moment. And that was the other pin in the balloon, I think. And I've been very happy to see artists being able to come out and just be out from the beginning. That's just so incredible. That really makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. Just keep it, people don't know. I mean, obviously don't know what it's like to carry around something inside that makes you different than anybody else. And in some places in the world could have you killed.
Sure.
It's very difficult to know what that's like inside and to swim against that with all you have to get out to the other side. So to any gay people who might be listening, it's worth it. Do it. Swim like mad against that current. Get away. Get away from whatever it is that's pushing against you. And then work against that on the way out.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, as being somebody who like works with kids that, someone who has always been really hell bent on like self-expression myself, even though, I'm just a boring old cisgendered white straight dude. But like, I think that growing up, seeing how attitudes were changing and being accepting of different lifestyles, like I kind of saw that as, I think that people like Pansy Division and people like Ellen and like, people who are just like unabashedly coming out and being themselves. It's not just for those people who are in those marginalized groups. I think like people who are just like weird by society standards in other ways, like I've always thought of myself as being, and just being able to like embrace who you are and also like not accept the bullshit of like what you're fed about, like, oh, this person, because they look a certain way or because they give off a certain energy or whatever, is like, that's like a weird thing and that's like not normal. And that's the beauty about like the punk scene in general that was coming out of California at that time, especially as far as like that was how much I knew about it. But I've always had like a weird kind of like respect. I think that any like straight or gay or whatever, like you have to have respect for gay men growing up in this country in this time, because to be open, that would have been hard when, I was 15 years ago in high school. I am happy to report that like working with kids as early as like 4 or 5 years ago, it seems like it's a lot more normalized now. And it's like things are actually progressing. It can be kind of hard to see it from a distance, but and is that something that you've noticed now that you're kind of like, working with kids as working in the financial aid with a college? Oh yeah.
People don't like kids that are coming to talk to me. I have pictures of my husband in my office, or I some of them have even recognized me, and I know the students know who I am. But they don't treat me any differently. There's no difference. And I love that. I think what that also takes is getting out of, as you mentioned, whatever stuff you were also listening to growing up, maybe like religion. Did you grow up in a religious home?
Somewhat. Yeah. Okay. And that's actually a question I had for you, but go on with what you're saying.
Oh yeah. Well, that would make a big difference. I mean, that really colors how you're looking at people. It really sets up a critique. It's like that's the model of critical thinking that's involved when you live a religious life is very different. Like for me, being gay and then being rejected by my church, that's when it really hits home. When the church that you grew up in and went with your parents, and I taught Sunday school, all of that. And then to be told, no, you no longer are welcome here because of who you are, even though who I was okay until I realized who I really was.
Sure.
So that to me was like, wait a minute. So how is this Christian? So, but if somebody doesn't have those, is not by necessity having to reject those or having been rejected by it, then you keep those strictures up there and like, okay, well, that's how I see everybody. Ooh, that looks weird. That doesn't look like what I see at church. That isn't what I see, in my charter school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got all of that, which is really being cultivated, and that's why I'm so glad Betsy DeVos is gone.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
So many people I'm so glad are gone right now. But
yes. Well, because I dealt with that. I dealt with her regularly. That was my Department of Education is what
Sure.
So
Yeah, my girlfriend was interning with a Department of Education thing, and she had similar, like, people don't understand how like all these different departments are being like hollowed out by the Trump administration right now. It's like that really flew under the radar, which is really kind of a bummer with like how mainstream media was mostly just focusing on how fucking rude Trump was. But, that's a whole other issue.
Right.
Sorry, go on. Not to say that he's not.
I think that's all I had to say was that, a lot of when you see that, when you're seeing it in your school, that's going to be different than a set of students at a charter school that are growing up with that view right there.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't question anything. Their critical thinking has not been supported enough to even critique what they're looking at through this lens.
Mm-hmm.
So how are they going to be able to step back and see it?
Sure. Yeah. I, having grown up in like fairly small town, very religious area, like there's people, whenever people like would visit my hometown in college or whatever, they'd be like, Jesus, there's so many like churches and banks for some reason in this town. But I know like this is actually something that I've been kind of trying to get at on this show and like, trying to book guests who might be able to speak to this. My first real like exposure to the concept of gayness was like my sister. I'm like an older sister. She's like 6 years older than me. And she had just like a gay friend who was out in high school. So in our small town, I still think it was a little bit under the radar, but like, and I remember, I had stereotypes in my head. I must have been 11 years old or something when I first met him and met this guy and just like absolutely loved her gay friend. And from that point forward, it was like, I fucking hate Republicans because they're assholes to gay people. And I love this guy. But my sister's very religious. And I think that that's something that really gets like ignored in the culture. As we just had down here in Georgia, we had the pastor at MLK's church barely inched by getting that seat in the Senate, which we're very happy about and got to say
thank you, Georgia.
We're very proud of that. Some of us down here anyway. But do you? Growing up religious, would you say that you still kind of like carry some of those teaching? Because I think like progressive Christians who really are about like the stuff that I remember from growing up somewhat religious, like, compassion and fairness and treating poor people nicely and all this stuff and accepting of people who are different from you, all that, nice mushy stuff, which I still kind of, I consider myself an atheist now, but where would you say that you are on that spiritual journey, if you're on one at all?
Well, at some point I had the idea that while I was questioning everything, because I thought, two things had happened. I moved around quite a bit when I was young. I went to 9 different schools.
Damn.
So 2 elementary, 4 junior high, and 3 high schools.
4
so
junior
I was
high.
always the new person.
Really rough.
But with those moves, we also changed churches.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a point where when in the last couple of moves that we did, we stopped attending church. My parents didn't take me to church anymore. And so I wasn't sure what that was about, whether maybe the minister at the last church had told them, that your son is gay and you guys are not coming back with him. I don't know what it was, but they stopped going. And it was part of a slow meltdown of my parents' relationship. But at the same time, I was thinking, what is it about God? What church would I go to myself? And here I'm thinking this at age 15, like, all right, I'm not going to that church anymore. So where am I going to go? And why? What about God? And I really had a thought that I think works for me anyway. When you think of a dog cannot perform calculus equations. Their brains just aren't wired for it. Mm-hmm. There's just no way that they're going to be able to. They can get maybe 170 words in their mind, but not calculus. It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's our mind. We cannot fathom infinity. So how could we possibly grasp that which created infinity? Our minds can't. So why do we even try? If we can't possibly know what's out there, why worry about it? And so that's what helped me reject this whole Bible and go, great work of fiction. I'm not believing the earth is 6,000 years old. And as far as I can see, Jesus was an ass kicker. Here, have it back. And he might have even been gay. I'll make you fishers of men.
Sure, yeah.
And who were his friends? All guys following him around, and prostitutes. So I kind of thought, all right, well, I'm going to assume that none of this was true, but I'm going to respect the story, because the story has really got a lot of merit behind it. And I can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, the baby Jesus out with the bathwater. Sure. I think that, there's a lot of stuff there's good stuff in there. But, when you look at the Bible and the New Testament and the Old Testament, like if you're, you're not supposed to kill people, but then there are times when it's okay to kill people. And then there's all these weird holes and weird back and forths that are not resolved. Mm-hmm. And I remember before I was rejected by my church, I would ask a lot of questions. And my minister at one point said, I use the Bible as a tool to provide guidance. And you need to decide for yourself what the Bible means to you. And I remember he gave me a book on the history of the Bible. And I was like shocked at what it had gone through. I mean, snip, 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 snip. Any references to reincarnation that Jesus made is gone, because sure. The king didn't want his subjects to think that they could come back in the next life as the king. And,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we're taking that out. Whatever didn't meet the story. And then also just knowing that the book of the Gospels were written at least 100 years after Jesus's death. Now, can we accurately remember what happened 100 years ago? Not really. We can remember it was, we had Spanish flu, and then we had the Roaring '20s, and then the Great Depression. So, we can but can you remember what it was like? Can you remember things that people said? They didn't have recording devices. How is this stuff?
Yeah. Like, how can it be anything more than metaphor, basically like works of literature, which, that is something I've heard, that like the Bible, we don't realize that, or like today, we interpret the Bible very differently. They would have looked at it back then as more like metaphorical literature. And actually I saw, becoming interested in this idea more of like with Raphael Warnock becoming elected and, starting to think like maybe this is kind of something that can kind of bridge the divide in America, is like having, religion refocused on helping the poor and being accepting of people and stuff like that, and having like a strong voice who's actually in a position of power. Maybe that could be really, have some hope in that. And
I watched this thing about somebody was like, it was kind of a progressive pastor who just had like the best, like quick little thing against literalism in the Bible, which was, okay, so this is a 2,000-year-old book. And when you see like a phrase like the Lord is my rock or the Lord is my shepherd, that doesn't literally mean the Lord is a piece of stone or the Lord is a, lamb falling. So how can you possibly not apply that same logic to everything else in the Bible? Because it is been translated so many different times. And, this is something I've always thought that Jewish people had this figured out way better than Christians, like having a spiritual tradition, a connection to something, a culture, something that's bigger than yourself, that guides you morally in some ways. But like you said, doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But also they found a way to make it work with being like culturally Jewish and being a like modern educated person, right?
Yeah.
I think that maybe, I know that Pansy Division has some great songs about these like people who get, the like Larry Craig, and that's actually my IRL last name is Craig. And I remember being so embarrassed about that when he was, this like homophobic, I don't know, was he a senator or a congressman? That I don't know, but yeah, I know you guys like mentioned him in one of your songs. And that was actually something that I was thinking about, like this question of, I know that like, it's kind of maybe a stereotype that like, these pastors and these politicians who are so against gay marriage and have like this weird obsession with gay people. Oh, Obsessed with Me. That's the song that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's a great song, by the way. And
we'll tell John.
I remember I mentioned that to somebody, just kind of in passing, that idea of these guys are like, most of them are like secretly gay, and that's why they're like kind of lashing out in this weird way that seems very obsessive. But somebody kind of pushed back on me with that and said, like, I don't really like that idea because basically that's just like blaming gay people for homophobia. Has that ever occurred to you? Or does that make sense to you, or what do you think about that?
I can see that. That made me laugh. I think in a way that's not wrong, I have to say. And it's when you've got people who make pronouncements or who interpret something very close to other people, like the Bible, and then they are outed as being like, what was that guy in Colorado Springs, Ted Haggard.
Haggard, yeah.
Into drugs and rent boys. It's like that unfortunate, that act that he was performing is the act of a frustrated, closeted individual who's not able to go out and form loving relationships with people of his own sex as he wants to. So he's got to cover it up with drugs and then buy somebody that he can pay off and get him out of his life so he can go back to being in the closet. So blaming gay people for that is wrong. I think that is the culture's fault. As long as people, if Ted Haggard, and he's basically playing, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, his sole goal is money. So when you have that as your sole goal, but your platform is religion, it's going to fail at some point, especially if you're in the closet. So unfortunately, he does make gay people look bad. That's the thing that's unfortunate. But it's not that gay people are like that. It's that when you push a gay person to the edge of what they can stand, that's the kind of activity you get.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, that it's like the repression is really, even though they will do, especially Christian conservatives and such, will do everything they can to direct your attention away from that. To me, that makes a whole lot more sense. One of my favorite public intellectuals, or whatever you would want to call him, Chris Ryan. Have you ever read this book, Sex at Dawn? Are you familiar with that at all?
I'm not, but I'm going to write it down.
Very, very interesting book. He's somebody who eventually I'd like to have on this show and just pick his brain about some stuff. He's got that book, Sex at Dawn, and then a newer one called Civilized to Death. That's really interesting about how, like, you know, civilization, the drawbacks and the costs of living in a civilized society. But this book, Sex at Dawn, explores a lot of different things about how, like, our you know, hunter-gatherer ancestors were probably a lot more, or like the narrative that we apply to them is probably not right, or very narrow in a lot of ways, and they were probably more promiscuous. And also that an interesting thing, like if you look at like how did gayness evolve, like I could sort of like give a very like rough crash course, and like basically the argument that he makes, and I've heard other like scientists and psychologists make about it, is like, you know, how could something like that evolve? It's like, well, if you look at like the anatomy and behavior of human beings, we are like, unlike the vast majority of other apes and like pretty much all other animals, sex within humans is a social thing way more than it is for other animals. And so when you look at it that way and understand, like, I think that the world makes a whole lot more sense when you look at mostly everything as being on a spectrum somewhere. And, you know, if you look at sexuality that way, and then also the fact that it does serve as this social sort of lubricant, not pun not intended, but and you know, this it's a social activity for humans in a way that's like, yeah, humans only have sex like one every 1,000 times per baby that they have. So reproduction is not even the primary like purpose of sex in humans, which is like kind of a weird thing to say. It almost feels like, but yeah, I don't know. That highly recommend that book. And yeah, just a lot of interesting like ideas like that.
Well, it's a good thing whatever created us, you know, hooked something up like that to make sure that we procreated, you know. Something feels that good, I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah, we're going to ensure that we get population, you know.
Absolutely.
So I don't really, just to fold up that last conversation, I don't really feel that I'm an atheist or agnostic, or that I believe anything, because any belief we have is folly. So what I've got is, I don't know, and I want to be surprised. So, you know, that to me is like, take that, if I can give people that freedom, because I think that's the thing, that people who believe those things, they're not free in a way. Either they inherited those thoughts, those beliefs, you know, virgin birth and resurrection. So all these things, the earth is 6,000 years old. My brother believed that. My brother was a Bible thumper, and he believed the earth. I'm like, are you kidding me? 6,000, what? And they're trapped. They're they can't critically think outside of that. And I think that's the kind of freedom that we need to give people. I mean, it's like Devo said, freedom of choice. You know, you need to know that you've got freedom to think something else. You don't have to think this way. I was forced to, because I was, you know, being a gay person, I had to rethink everything that I grew up with, because now I'm what I thought I didn't ever want to be. And certainly what my parents never wanted me to be. So, but I had to rethink everything. So I think that freedom, though, it really broadened me and made me think, all right, how could I possibly be against anybody else of a different skin color? We didn't choose where we were born. I didn't choose this.
Sure.
I didn't choose this. You know, I'm working with it. But I didn't choose being left or right-handed, all these things. We didn't choose those things. We are those things. And as long as we can get to the point where we all realize we just arrived with those things, then hopefully that'll add some freedom to people's thinking. They won't be so, you know, it's God that did this. No, God did all of it, you know?
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think that spirituality recently getting that definition of it just a connection to something bigger than yourself. I think, you know, having having an artistic outlet is hugely important, and maybe like to some degree fills that hole that people have, that, you know, maybe religion in more primitive times, or I don't know, however you'd want to put it, kind of fills that spiritual hole, just having some kind of connection to something bigger than you. And I guess, like, you know, art, or, you know, being politically active, or having just like a bigger cause that you want to get through. So, and I think that's something with like Pansy Division that is always going to be like undersung, the role that y'all played in being right there at that moment, that intersection of like when punk was getting big, but also like, and when, you know, punk was going mainstream, and you guys riding that line between like punk and sort of like pop rock in such an awesome, fun way. And actually, like, when I got into like some of your later, I guess, the stuff you guys put out like past 2000, kind of realized y'all started doing this sort of like alt country, like shuffle beat kind of stuff. I love that beat his ass in tennis and fucked his ass in bed song. Like right after y'all, I think, released that song, I started noticing like more of that kind of getting into the mainstream too, like alt country stuff, sort of like peppering into music. So y'all are on the cutting edge in a lot of different ways.
Well, that specifically, that song came about because everyone in the band at the time, we were all huge old 97s fans. For some reason, the album Too Far to Care, we just played it to death. We could not get enough of it. We just loved it. And I still, to this day, I can play it and go, God, I love this record. So that was our little ode to them. It was like, all right, we can kind of do this too. And we played a show with them eventually. It was, and they're just still one of my very favorite bands. So some of it was, you know, well, can we branch out a little bit just to have a little fun with that? Yeah. So,
I think y'all, you know, especially for like West Coasters, really did such a fantastic job with like just bringing that genre in on that song. And I don't know, I think there's like kind of a folksy jangliness to, I don't really know the right terminology. You know, writing about music can be very hard, coming up with adjectives for sound, but you know, I think there is like some folksiness and jangliness to a lot of y'all's music that is kind of reminiscent of I think some of the more like that alt country stuff that's like, you know, old 97s, like not all their songs really have like direct like country sound to them, but there's that you can still hear the DNA in there. And, you know, I definitely hear those influences with y'all.
Well, for us, you know, John's about a year and change older than I am. But for me, what was happening around 78, 79 was really the kind of punk that I really got into. And it was more power pop, honestly, because there wasn't a punk scene at that point. There, you know, for me anyway, there were just bands. There might have been a scene occurring in England, and I could read about it, but it wasn't in my backyard in Seattle. You know, nothing was. So in Seattle, we had people that, you know, we went to any show that came, because if a band would stop in Seattle back then, it was like, oh my God, you know, usually they played Portland and Vancouver and skip Seattle. So, you know, we'd see metal bands and then we'd see punk bands. And so sort of like grunge, that's what it was the melding of, I grew up with punk and metal. And I listened to both equally, and I love them both equally, Black Sabbath and Scratch Acid, you know. So for Pansy Division, when John designed Pansy Division, he was looking at more like the Buzzcocks, the Ramones. I would even say Paul Collins Beat, who were one of my favorites. That first album is just genius in its simplicity. And that's what was key, simplicity, because he knew the message had to get through in the simplest way. So punk became that, but we never really said we were a punk band. We got put there.
Sure.
We thought we were trying to, you know, as far as punk went, we went, yeah, okay, to the extent that we're doing everything ourselves, yes, that's punk. We still own our own masters. We still did our own artwork. We never sold anything. I remember there was one point where we were going to be sponsored by a cigarette company up in Canada for a tour. And I kind of fucked that up by drawing balls on a cigarette at one of the signs in Vancouver. But it was like, we want to do this cleanly. So that stuff was the punk echo, if you will. But sonically, yeah, it was more about the power pop and the songwriting and getting, Pete Shelley, a master songwriter, just getting really to the point. And that's what we used that's what he used. And when I listened to it, I was like, I identified with those elements really quickly because we were steeped in the same stuff.
Sure. Yeah. It's very much y'all's own thing. I mean, I would say like really the only, and I'm not super familiar with like a lot of those bands that were on Lookout at the time. The only band that I would say like kind of you guys remind me of is like the Mr. T Experience, which, that it's similar kind of thing. It's like sort of the next evolution of like that Ramones Buzzcocks sound is how I've always kind of seen.
Again, he's a peer. He's the same age. He's a brilliant songwriter, brilliant lyricist.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love him.
So, I mean, he got the point. It's like, if I'm going to get these lyrics out, I need the simplest way to get the message out. So Same thing. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And like just doing your own thing. I know I'm mindful of your time and I really only have like one more kind of general question.
I have set aside another hour and 45. So it's up to you.
Okay, excellent. Cool. So
we've been doing other things.
Okay. So I see you're wearing a Bowie shirt and, that's obviously icon and another guest that maybe I'll actually drop in because I have a little like story that I have told that was like a guest I had a few episodes ago that is relevant to a lot of the things that we've been talking about, but I'll maybe actually drop that in a second or I will say it and then maybe replace it with that actual clip in a second because he'll tell the story better than I will. But he brought up Prince as being someone who, and I, kind of look at Bowie in a similar way as like someone who like for people who felt different in really any way, whether it's for like the way that we were kind of like talking about that, connecting on that was like just being kind of like a sensitive kid who was a boy. And seeing somebody, he talked about how seeing somebody like Prince come out and just be like, I'm me, just existing was the political statement. Just him in and of itself was the political statement. And, like I said before, I would say the same thing about you guys.
No, I think Prince was an absolute genius from the beginning. I think, and his message was amazing. I mean, that's why we covered, Jack You Off. He's one of our favorites. That was part of his message was, am I straight or gay controversy? So it's, we loved it, but we were also like, is he going to take the next step? Is he going to, another disappointment. But in a way, we realized it's Prince. You're right. It's just, I'm me, I'm Prince. Am I straight or gay? I don't,
Yeah.
But what we were hoping was that somebody would do it. And maybe Prince might have been that person and he wasn't. And that's okay.
Yeah, he, like what I said earlier about everything being on a spectrum, Prince, I think is a great representation and Bowie representation of that. And, how like a lot of things make more sense. Like I brought up Propagandhi. I grew up listening to their albums from the 90s and early 2000s. And I know like their singer makes a couple of references to having gay sex. Or having sex, like sexual experience encounters with other men. And I always assumed he was gay and then kind of like sort of realized later on, like he was talking about that as like, an experience on the spectrum. He's, I think, mostly straight or, whatever, assign a percentage to it or whatever you want to do. But like, I think, and when I kind of like realized that sort of made me see that opened up a lot, like unlocked a lot for me. I think just understanding how, the new phenomenon of trans people being like more accepted and how that's something that if you don't experience that, it's really impossible to understand unless you just know that, like, yeah, everything is on a spectrum and you're somewhere on that spectrum too.
Right. Well, physical differences is the only word I can think of to use.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that are also rejected by a religious mindset. It's not taught in schools that there are people who have these organs and are born with a mix of them or different ones, or it happens. It occurs in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it's looked like that must be an alien from another planet and needs to be sent back to the hell it came from. Instead of like, this is an occurrence in nature, and there's nothing that person did to decide that that's what they wanted to, they arrived just like we all did. Mm. And that's what they have. So again, how can you go against that person? But yeah, I think, I was attracted to differences early on because I knew I was different. I mean, seeing Bowie on Soul Train, like, there's a white guy with orange hair on Soul Train. Hot, and I knew about Bowie since when Apollo, when the man first stepped on the moon, because they would play Space Oddity when I was a kid, so it was around. So I kind of knew, I knew about Bowie all the way along, but then seeing him at these various points, that he's very much always stirred something in me. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess that little story that I was going to say I was going to drop in.
Here's Chris Crofton on his political or sociopolitical awakening from episode 13. Shut up and Chris Meet W. Chris Crofton, part 2 of 2. If you're new to Breadsheet, that's a great episode, but really, I can't help but put lots and lots of love and time and energy into stuff I make, so you can binge all of Breadsheet knowing that I at least tried to make every episode a fun experience. Now it's 12:42 a.m. I've got to get up early tomorrow morning and do lots of backbreaking moving stuff, so I really should just publish this now.
Because you don't want to tell people to fuck off, and you don't want to tell people that they're dumb, because there but for the grace of God go you. All these people who are so stupid are usually just people who didn't have access to things that you had access to because you had more resources. I mean, you too could be a dummy. I mean, that's what to remember. I mean, most of these people are you, except they just didn't run into the right people who changed their perspectives. They stayed in their childhood bubble. You have to be somewhat understanding that you were not born woke. You did not come out of the womb anyway. If you were in the wrong circumstances, you probably could be a racist also. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't some people who are just bad apple people. Like maybe there are some people who have some brain problems who are just violent from birth, but usually atmosphere, nurture has something to do with it. It's not just nature, it's nature and nurture. So if you happen to be lucky enough to have good information and be woke as a result of that, I mean, I think it's a nice idea to try to make other people aware of that information, but constantly gloating about how woke you are and calling other people idiots is extremely short-sighted if you're, really serious about changing the world. You're not going to change it by just gloating about how great your information is. I mean, because I feel like most people are kind. They just don't have very good information,
I absolutely strongly agree with that. And, that's definitely something, especially in the Trump era, that we've seen. I think a lot of people on the left have this like, they're racist, they're irredeemable. I think the vast majority of people really, it's really born out of ignorance, and their sense of empathy maybe is a little bit screwy, but I think that we need to be better about communicating with even those people who we think are quote, too far gone, which can be really difficult because a lot of those people are f***ing assholes.
If my ex-girlfriend hadn't taken pity on me in college and told me some stuff I needed to hear, because she loved me and understood that I just didn't know what I was talking about because of where I grew up. I would have not, if she just called me an idiot and broken up with me, I probably would have just ended up even more resentful and more dug in with my fake republicanism that I grew up with. Like, luckily she blew my mind with some information that I just didn't know about. Like, I don't have to get into specifics, but I can. I mean, basically I grew up in the Catholic Church, and they have that is a homophobic organization, and they teach you that homosexuality is a sin. And I grew up in an area where that was not something that was discussed beyond that. It was the kind of area in the 1980s where homosexuality was largely under the rug, and there were no gay people anywhere, as far as I knew in my town. Because it was not safe for them to be gay in that environment. But that led me to believe like there were very few gay people in the world. You know what I mean? Like in my bubble, it was like, oh, I guess there aren't any gay people anyway. So maybe it is true that they're sinners or whatever, because they must be some kind of weirdo, because I don't see any of them around here. Unbeknownst to me, they're all around me, because because of where I grew up, and, there's it had been an atmosphere where you could believe there were no gay people because it was a stupid atmosphere. So, or, violent or dangerous atmosphere to be gay in. So I go to college, and my girlfriend's talking to me, and she's grew up in a very diverse community in St. Louis. And her mother was like her mother didn't call herself woke because that was not a thing, but her mother was like, very like open about talking about sex and about, and her mother was very the kind person who loved gay people. And she was aware of gay people, and she was aware of how AIDS was transmitted and all kinds of things. And I went to college, and I was talking to her about, she said something about AIDS or something about gay people. And I was like, well, yeah, they're no, I don't like them or something, and she was like, what? I mean, she was like, what? And I was like, well, they started AIDS. And she was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, and at that moment, I realized I did not know what the fuck I was talking about. Everything fell apart for me in that moment. I realized that I knew nothing. I knew an attitude and vague information I got from growing up in a wealthy community and from a Catholic church. And all of a sudden, she said to me, she just said, do you think if homosexuality is a choice, as the Catholic Church, preaches, do you think that these children or teenagers would choose a way of life that guarantees them a harder road? For kicks, that's what the concept is. That's the Catholic concept, that this is an aberration by a weak person who just likes crazy sex. And I just, all of a sudden, I was like, no, you are right. You are right. And I don't know what I'm talking about. However, if she said to me in that moment, fuck you, you homophobic piece of shit, you idiot.
Maybe it would have just pushed you in the other direction.
I don't know what would have happened, but I was grateful that she loved me enough to say, no, honey, you have gotten very bad information, and you are a good person, and I'm going to tell you the real information. And it changed me right there, right in that moment, because I realized that I had never had a serious discussion about this with anybody, that where I grew up, it was just this idea that everyone was straight, and all these nonsense beliefs that still exist in this country all over the place. And if you don't get out of that bubble, and if when someone you meet is still in that bubble and they say something to you and you just say, fuck you, you homophobic idiot, you're losing a chance that person might actually respond to some good information.
Okay, back to Past Haas's chat with the great Chris Freeman.
And this is the part of this story that I love so much. He's like, I realize I don't know fucking shit about anything. Like, I have had these vague notions about, and that I just love that story so much. Like, it's such a beautiful thing that in that moment you could have said, or she could have said, fuck you, you fucking homophobe weirdo. But she chose to say, honey, listen, bless your heart, as we say down here in the South. Would you say something I always ask people about on this show is like, was there anything in your life that radicalized you? I have a lot of people who are like leftist, socialist activists and stuff like that. And, I was thinking about how to pose that question with you. And because such a big part of it is like being, an activist within the gay community. But it's like, that had to be just a different sort of experience, like coming from inside like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And also, not only were we coming out as gay, we were also attacking the gay community at the same time, which a lot of gay people did not like. But in order to open up and find room for ourselves in the gay community, we had to do that. But I remember even my boyfriend at the time, he was very against what I was about to do, joining Pansy Division. And he said, there's just no way you should be saying stuff about Judy Garland like that. Or, you know, why would you say that you hate disco? I'm like, because I fucking hate disco. That's why. You know, what difference is it, you know? And why should I have to be, why should somebody look at me and go, oh, he's gay, he must like disco? What do I look at every straight guy and go, oh, he's a straight guy, he must love metal? You know what I mean? Like, how, that's about as stupid as it is.
Yeah.
You know? But that's how it was, you know, supposed. You were, if you're gay, this is what you did and this is what you liked. And, you know, the straitjacket was like, well, wait a minute, I'm coming out, I'm finding myself, and I'm finding that I don't like that either. Can it be okay for me to? So a lot of that is individual, you know, trying to be an individual in all of that too, because the gay community is very, very tight in what they allow. So, but I think, can you rephrase it or say again what you, because I kind of lost my train a little bit.
Oh, well, I mean, what I was bringing up was the fact that I didn't really know how to phrase the question.
Okay.
But
okay.
It was, but you know, that actually, that does kind of speak to, I think, a bigger issue, what you just brought up there, which is that like, so much of politics and like social issues and everything, like it's all wrapped up in like cultural identity, and there are things that to me like don't make any sense. Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me that why you would be a Christian, why that also means you would be against gay people having the right to get married, or why you're like, even, you know, weirder, like stuff like, why are you super for the death penalty or throwing people in jail for doing drugs? Like, why does that have anything to do with you being Christian? Or why does that have anything to do with you like believing in free market capitalism? You know, like, why are those things all connected? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Because that's where the church is. It depends on the church they were brought up in. If you go to your church thinking you're going to get the answers, and they give you answers, and those are the answers, you're going to believe them because, well, isn't that a pipeline from God? So why should I challenge those thoughts? Why should I challenge, if my minister says the Bible shows that gay people should not be married? I mean, you can find an argument for anything in the Bible, honestly.
Sure, yeah.
So if you're going to find that, then all right, well, that person's going to believe it if they go to that church. And they may go to another church, and that church is like, oh no, everything's cool. You know, what do you know, it's the Lord made everybody, you know. That's going to seem foreign and kind of weird and airy-fairy to those people, you know?
Yeah.
So I think the church really has the stronghold. As soon as people can let go of that. And I remember now what you were asking me, what radicalized me. And I think it wasn't any one thing. It was a series of things, you know, being rejected by my church. I was also kicked out when I was 16. I was a junior in high school. And it wasn't about being gay. It was about, I had a joint in my pocket. My dad was going through my clothes. So I was kicked out, and I had to find everything out for myself. And once I did, I realized now I'm in a place where I've got a president, Reagan, who never once uttered the word AIDS, even though it all occurred under his watch. So that was a radicalizing thing for me. And also then a band that I was in at the time, we were being groomed by A&M Records. There was a little marketing team they sent to us to kind of groom the band that I was in. And they said, oh, you're gay. And I was one of the main songwriters in this band. And we had two singers up front that were women. And so I could write songs for them and not change the pronouns.
Oh, nice.
But I was just the bass player and I wasn't the singer. So they said, well, we will not direct any interviews towards you. So that way you don't have any opportunity to say that you're gay, because that's not something you should be saying. This was 85.
Oh.
And I said, okay, because I swallowed it, because I was in a band with some of my best friends, some of them I'm still best friends with today. And they accepted me, and they were like, shit. And they all looked at me like, shit, man. And I was like, it's okay. I got it. No problem. It's all for one here. Then we dissolved like 6 months later. But, that experience for me was like, I don't ever want that again. I never want to be put in that position again. And finding people from that point on who were open to my being gay in the band was almost nil. Like being in Seattle, all those musicians that from Seattle, I know just about all of them. And they didn't want a gay person in their band. I moved to San Francisco. I played in a few different bands. And I thought, well, I was going to go to LA, but then somebody took me to San Francisco. I'm like, oh, I don't have to have a car here. And I didn't own a car in Seattle. So I thought, all right, I'll stay here. And, one of the last bands I was in was a band called Model Citizens with Viv Savage from Spinal Tap.
Oh.
So, and I could not come out of the closet to them. And I'm like, why am I going? And I had to really sit down and have a come to Jesus moment with myself. Like, is this really what I want to do? I'm 28, almost 29. And I'm being in a band that this is very interesting that I'm with somebody from Spinal Tap, but is this the music I want to do? And more further, do I want to cloak myself after all the work I've done just because it affords me the opportunity to play bass and do it possibly for a living? Because they were, it was a possibility they were going to get signed. They didn't actually, but, and I quit. And I quit everything. And that was the point where I said, okay, I can't consciously do that again to myself. That is not being respectful of me. And I would rather quit bass. And it was very sad for me. And I sold some stuff and like, okay, this is it. And I said, okay, I'll do stuff for fun. So I would produce bands for fun. And I kept my eye on the want ads though. And then that's how I saw John's ad. I was like, oh, somebody who might respect me for being me. That was, honestly, that's really what it was. Those things all kind of pushed to the point where Pansy Division for me was the answer. Like that, it rung so true for me that I had to devote everything I could to it. And that became like everything, because around us, people were dying around us. People were spray painting outlining bodies in the street of San Francisco when you heard another person died of AIDS, another spray painted body in the center of the street. We had ACT UP. We had all this radicalization because nobody was talking about the fact that people were dying off daily. I mean, I've had 5 boyfriends from that period that are gone. I've dozens of friends that are gone, dozens, and we still talk about them like, oh my God, yeah. And they're gone, and the president would never say anything. So everything became a point where joining Pansy Division made sense. And I told my boyfriend at the time, sorry, I'm doing it, bye. I'm like, I found it,
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say I was not really conscious, like how you just said it. I wasn't really conscious that I was radicalizing myself in a way, but at some point I did realize, and that's why John looked at me and went, I thought you understood that what we were doing was political. But I realized, oh yeah. And it made sense. Mm-hmm. And just like it makes sense now. It's like that was the radicalization. And it's constantly being told that you can't do something. And then like, okay, I guess I can't.
Sure.
And then something comes along where it's like somebody said, no, I don't accept that. John was the one who said, I don't accept that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he did.
That's like, just when, things get sort of normalized like now, and hopefully more so as time goes on, like the extreme, the radical, like odd position now, I think hopefully is more that the idea of being like somebody who gives a shit about what gay people getting married, for instance. And I think that was like kind of a tone that you started hearing that a lot, that sentiment a lot in like stand-up comedy and on, in movies and stuff. People be like, what's the matter with you? Like, why do you give a shit like what other people do in their bedroom? And I think like that, I think that's a big way that, and I've heard some like people who, were big activists during, in the 80s and 90s talk about like how, one of the, in a kind of critique of like cancel culture or whatever, talking about how, one of the ways that we like normalized our lifestyle was through being unapologetic about it, but also like through, outreach and like being kind to people and trying to be patient with them and that sort of thing, but never compromising to that end. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that. And I would say that a lot of people say it's like will and grace was like one of the biggest things. It just normalized it, and hopefully I think that's what talking about being radicalized or having radical politics. I think I would say that believing in, say, for instance, something that's kind of, unrelated, like the fact that homelessness is a thing. And yet I believe strongly that we have like the resources and the technology, and we just don't have the like political will to eliminate homelessness. But the fact that we could and we don't, that is radical and extreme and like, fucked up to me. And so, yeah.
And that's I blame Reagan for homelessness. If you look back.
Oh yeah. In California, especially.
It's exactly what he did was he said, no, we're not taking care of them. Mm-hmm. Well, that was because, socialism again, that's socialism. If you're taking care of people, then, that's socialism. They should take care of themselves. Well, they can't. These people are broken. They can't take care of themselves.
Sure. Yeah. I've heard that like when he was governor of California, he closed down a ton of like mental health facilities. And that was where the huge like glut of homeless people came from, which is what do you expect is going to happen? It's like it's one thing to say like, oh, everybody should look out for themselves and take responsibility for themselves. But like, look at the actual reality of the situation. Like that's fine and dandy to think that. But like, if the outcome is that you're just going to have a lot more suffering, then, why are we engaging in that at all?
Right. Right.
Did you have some like a little bit of like PTSD flashbacks last year when the way that Trump was handling the COVID crisis? A lot of echoes there.
A lot of them. Mostly, back in AIDS days, we knew that condoms were the answer. And we made sure that we put instructions for how to use condoms on our records. We had it in, at our shows, we distribute condoms and instructions because we knew that's what kept me alive. That's what kept me HIV negative all these years. So we wanted to make sure that was out there. But you still had this whole group of people, and even to the point where they call it the gift givers or the gift receivers, these people who were going to go and be a bottom for 10 HIV positive men. And at some point he'd get the gift, I don't know what drives men to that thought, or anybody to that mentality where, I am never going to wear a condom. I don't care. That's the same thing I see with masks. I look at them and I go, it's Darwinism. Stupid doesn't live. So if you're stupid, you're not, good luck.
I guess the problem with that is that like, that's they're spreading it around for other, people who are trying to do their best to.
Well, the same with AIDS.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's so many people who shouldn't have got it by accident, got it because they got, injected with something or they shared a needle or something. So you have a lot of, what would they call that sort of collateral damage? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I totally saw that through this entire pandemic. I'm like, I've been through this before and you just have to do it. You just have to put on the condom or put on the mask and stop being a stupid idiot. And if you aren't, then, Darwinism, good luck to you. It's like I'm reminded of Ash, the robot in Aliens. He's like, "You have my sympathies." Remember that line?
Yes. Yeah. One of my favorite duologies, or what would you call that? Those sequels, the first two Alien movies. So good.
Yeah. It's hard for me to tell whether Aliens is better than Alien. They're both so amazing, and yeah.
I guess just my taste, I lean more toward Alien because I like that, like, sort of the suspense, sci-fi thriller, horror elements that it has. But Aliens is a whole lot of fun too. But
I saw that in the theater when it came out, and a friend of mine, we were looking for work, and we ended up downtown Seattle, and we couldn't find anything. So we were just like, all right, well, let's go smoke a bowl somewhere, like, oh, there's the theater. Oh, but what's Alien? I don't know. Let's just go and, so we could smoke a bowl in the afternoon in the theater. Oh. And then that movie came on, and we both came out going, oh, fuck, that was insane.
A game changer. Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember what the first movie you ever saw in theaters is by chance?
No. It might have been, I was born in 1961. So my memories of movies in the theater, I do remember like Sound of Music. I remember a lot of those movies that would come around in the holidays that my parents would take me to. A lot of Disney. I had a lot of Disney because that was a good, they used to have double features back then. So, they could park me in a theater for 4 hours and, get their shopping done. I'd be, Disneyfied for 4 hours. I remember very distinctly, though, seeing 2001 Space Odyssey in Cinerama in Seattle. And I was 7. And that was, it was like crazy. And I kept asking my dad, like, what's going on? He goes, I don't know, Ken, it's just a movie. He couldn't explain it to me. I was like, I was just dazzled, though. So I do remember that one. I can't really remember specifics more than those.
I think that those, 2001 A Space Odyssey, especially, it's hard for me to put myself back in the context of when that came out. But that was, something I've kind of been this intersection between art and politics thing, really groundbreaking pieces of art like that do something totally new and fresh. I think are so important for showing people that, the dogmas and the way that you just become used to things being, in order to move beyond that and make things better in any way. Like, you could apply this to so many things. Like, you have to have imagination. And I think that's like kind of the importance of art that gets kind of neglected because you don't really see the effects of that so immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's imagining a world that doesn't exist. And what would it look like if it did? And you're right. The same thing that they were like, well, because I don't think we'd yet stepped foot on the moon. And yet here they're making a movie about stepping foot on the moon, which is why they had, I think, that whole conspiracy theory that we actually never went on the moon. Because it looks so real. Yeah. And then it's the same thing as like with Pansy Division. I think with John, he was like, I want to imagine a world where gay rock music exists. What would it sound like to me? And I think that's same thing. It's like, what could I do? What hole is there in life that I want to see now? What is there that I want to see?
That's a beautiful sentiment. I think that does kind of tie things up nicely. We've been talking for over an hour and a half now. Would you? This is pretty typical with these. Go to like an hour and a half. These chats. Is there before I ask you to, where can people find you and follow you and that sort of like housekeeping type stuff? Is there anything like kind of reflecting on what we've talked about here today that you'd like to say to, I know earlier you had a little message for like people, gay people who might be listening, or, just anybody who has something that a different kind of like reality that they want to imagine. Anything that you'd like to say to them?
Sure. Don't be afraid to imagine it, because if you think about it enough, it might just happen. We thought about it enough, and look where we are. Now we have gay people that are able to be out from the beginning of their career. And, we've got politicians and we've got everywhere. We're everywhere now. That was not thought of before until somebody like us thought, let's think about it. What would it be like? What do you want? What world do you want to live in? So don't be afraid to step into it and move forward. And if it means battling everything in your own mind, so what? You're going to survive it. You're going to survive battling your own mind. It's worth breaking up the walls in your mind and finding what really works for you. Because most of the time we just absorb the walls of the culture that we arrived in. So whatever religion it is, whatever your community is, all those things that are around you, and depending on if you've moved or if you've traveled, that also informs that. So if you can break out all of that stuff, the world is huge and there's so much to know, way more than your little town, way more than your little church. And it's so worth going out there and finding something. And it's worth imagining something, because look how much better our world keeps getting because of people who keep thinking about, I can make it better, and imagining it.
Beautiful. Again, beautiful. And so yeah, I guess unless there's anything else you'd like to add, is like, where can people like find you? Are you on Twitter, Facebook, stuff like that?
I am, unfortunately, I'm going to be 60 this year. John's 61. He does Twitter. I know Pansy Division is on Instagram and Facebook. And we have a website, pansydivision.com. And we also have Pansy Division video, all one word, on YouTube. So anybody can find us at any of those spots. It's hard for us to keep up, though, because we're old school. Sure. And we don't pay anybody. We don't have a social director. We don't, it's all, we do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, but you can find us that way. You can email to the website or find us on Facebook and send us a message if you want to ask questions or get in touch with us. It's very easy. We're very accessible.
Excellent. Well, yeah, thank you for being so accessible, generous with your time today here with me. I'm probably going to be releasing this in like 2 or 3 weeks, and I kind of like to drop an episode beforehand. Maybe I'll shoot you an email about like if I can like maybe use a song of y'all's to like close out an episode with.
Absolutely.
Beforehand or something like that.
You name a song, you can easily use it. Yes. We own all of our own rights, so no problem.
Okay, excellent. Cool. Well, thank you so much again for being so generous with your time. I hope you have a wonderful day over there on the West Coast.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
By the way, yeah, let me know, and I'll just post it on all of our pages.
Okay, excellent. That would be great. And I think my listeners are really going to like love, the ones who aren't familiar with y'all already are going to love like learning about you guys. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you so much for joining me here. Well, have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you again soon, hopefully.
All right, bye-bye. It's worth imagining something. What world do you want to live in? What is there that I want to see? It makes a huge difference. It's worth imagining something because of people who keep thinking about, I can make it better, and imagining it. To any gay people who might be listening, it's worth it.
It's mail order ministry. It's mail order ministry.
I want to imagine a world where gay rock music exists. What would it sound like to me?
Let's play with their head.
Swim against that with all you have. Swim like mad. Do it. Swim like mad against that current. Get away. Get away from whatever it is that's pushing against you.
It's mail order ministry. It's mail order ministry.
Do it. And then work against that. That was not thought of before until somebody like us thought, let's think about it. What would it be like? What do you want?
It's mail order ministry.
To any gay people who might be listening, we're everywhere now. Don't be afraid. So what? You're going to survive it. You're going to survive battling your own mind because of people who keep thinking about, I can make it better, and imagine. It's worth imagining. We're everywhere now. Don't be afraid. So what? You're going to survive it. You're going to survive battling your own mind.
It's mail order ministry.
Alrighty, folks. Thank you so very kindly for tuning in to this lovely edition of Breadsheet. Thanks to Mr. Thanks to Mr. Chris Freeman again for being such an awesome guest, taking the time to begin with. Check out Pansy Division's music on all the streaming services, the compilation, The Essential Pansy Division, truly wonderful. Check out the documentary about them, free on YouTube. Pansy Division, Life in a Gay Rock Band, some of their music videos, live performances, all kinds of stuff. Also on YouTube. They're on Twitter at Pansy Division, on Instagram at Pansy Division Official. Facebook group is the official Pansy Division group. All that stuff and more at pansydivision.com. Stick around just a moment longer to hear one of my favorite Pansy Division songs, which we will write out on. Also, of course, follow me, Hoss Bossman, on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Hoss_Bossman, twitch.tv/Hoss_Bossman. Please consider, supporting me on the Patreon at Hoss_Bossman. Music, thekmax.bandcamp.com, or the breadsheet, The Sounds of Breadsheet, which that would be a way to do like kind of a one-time support of the show. Just purchase that EP, you can, or that album, The Sounds of Breadsheet, which you can purchase there. I think it's $7, 29 tracks. That's a steal, really. That's hossbossman.bandcamp.com. All this stuff, including the Pansy Division links and all my stuff and everything, are linked in the show notes or the description of this episode. Let's see, Hoss Bossman YouTube channel, share, rate, review this podcast, all that stuff. Tell your friends. www.hoss.fun. Now, let's ride out on the title track from Pansy Division's 2009 album, That's So Gay, featuring Mr. Chris Freeman on lead vocals. Make sure you spread love and compassion as you go about your days. Be nice to literally everyone. Don't be Hitler. Be Gandhi and MLK. Hell, be Jesus if you can swing it. Love ya. Come back for the next exciting episode of Breadsheet, which is going to be here in 2 weeks and either feature Ben Burgess' return or maybe a mini. Okay, love ya. Hoss out. Mwah.
I heard what you said. I'm not stupid, you know. What do you take me for, hetero? The next time you say it, make sure I can't hear, 'cause you're pissing me off. Is that clear? What did he say? He said that's okay. What did he say? He said that's okay. And if you say it again, there'll be hell to pay. I'll show you what it's like to be gay. I heard what you said, just a figure of speech. If you meant nothing by it, practice what you preach. The next time you say it, you better think twice. Some pissed off faggot may not take it too nice. What did he say? He said that's okay. What did he say? He said that's okay. And if you say it again, there'll be hell to pay. I'll show you what it's like to be gay. I'm not stupid, you know. What do you take me for, reader? The next time you